Welcome once again to the Hockey Lifers, presented by PenFed Credit Union. Great rates for everyone, and it is always a delight and a treat when you get joined by Karl Alzner, former NHL player with the Washington Capitals and Montreal Canadiens. And we've got something a little bit special, Karl, coming up a little bit later on in the program, because last week at the NHL Scouting Combine, I spoke to Ross Mahoney, who we talked about last time you were on, vis-a-vis your interview, which you thought sewered you with the Washington Capitals, only to see them draft you. But more on that in a couple of moments. First of all, before we get into Game 3 between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Vegas Golden Knights, which really was an incredible game. This whole series has been topsy-turvy, emotional storylines, like all of it. Some great plays, some bad plays, some weird plays, fans loving it. It really has been an exceptional Stanley Cup Final so far. I want to get a couple thoughts of you from your weekend and swing into summer. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so it's kind of the brainchild of my wife and I. We've been talking about for a long time because we went to a Blake Como, Josh George's event way back in the day in Kelowna where they put on this amazing softball, slow pitch softball tournament, and it starts with like just I don't know what you want to call it, a celebrity game or an athlete game on the Friday night, and then the weekend is a tournament, and they have two teams made up of players, current or former players, and sometimes their wives. It's a co-ed tournament, and it was so much fun. I had never done anything like that before, and we had always said, if we get an opportunity to host some events, we're going to do something along those lines. So fast forward, moving back to DC here, that was something that we wanted to bring to the area. They have a congressional softball game here that draws a lot of attention, and so we wanted to do that as well. And so we started planning it, and this was our third year doing it. We have a wide range of players that come out and play, from hockey to football to baseball to lacrosse.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have any basketball players. We've had tennis. And so it is really funny to see everybody's level of ability, because some are phenomenal and other guys, as you can probably imagine, are just terrible. They don't know the rules. They don't know anything. And so as the game goes on, they get better and better.
Yeah.
And we've had great games. The first year was tight. The next year went into extra innings, and then this past year my team got walked off in the sixth inning or the seventh inning. So they're tons of fun. What we do is we raise money for underprivileged youth in the DC area, so DC, Virginia, Maryland, and all the players are happy to support it, and they all enjoy themselves. We try to do it where there's they don't have to do anything really besides show up and have fun and play. And I think that's why we continue to get players back. But man, it is a fun time. We got great weather, good game, and raised quite a lot of money this year. So yeah, it was great. We had a good time.
Okay, so let me, of course, being on a hockey podcast, who are the hockey names that people will be familiar with? And I do want to share something about Josh George's, who, when he played with the Habs, was one of my favorites. But give us the hockey names. Who came out and who's been out?
So last year we had Carey Price come out, which was a massive draw.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know that he realized how many fans he had out in this area. We're very transient, so a lot of Canadians live out here, and so he was a really big pickup for us. Braden Holtby plays every year, and he's a unbelievable baseball and softball player. Always competes in the home run derby for us as well. TJ Oshie, Nick Backstrom have all played. Eric Fair has come back and played, and he's a fan favorite. But he's also a player favorite. He's one of those glue guys that every time he comes in, everybody's really pumped to see him. And then we get some current guys, like we had Dylan Strome play last year, who was he was one of those guys that I was expecting to be decent, but he exceeded expectations. So I keep trying to pull guys out. The problem is it's usually at the end of the season for a lot of guys, so they're still playing either in the playoffs, and it's hard to get them out, or maybe their kids have something going on. So we keep trying to get guys, and we'll keep asking. But because of our area, baseball and football, a lot of guys in the area, so we end up pulling a decent amount from there. Ryan Zimmerman, I know you said hockey, but Ryan Zimmerman, Mr. National, and he's played all 3 years, and he never ceases to amaze me with the stuff that he does. So yeah, it's pretty good, and hopefully we continue to grow and get some guys from different teams to come out here, so our Caps fans can see that.
I think that's fantastic. Interesting about goaltenders. I remember having this conversation with former NHL goaltender Felix Potvin, and he would say you can really tell the goaltenders who've played baseball because they can actually catch the puck, whereas there's a lot of goalies that just kind of like push it almost like it's almost a block. They're using the glove like it's another blocker. Like, have you had goalies out, or have you seen goalies who you'd think that because they're a goalie, they should be able to catch pucks, but they'd never played baseball, so they struggle with it. Have you seen that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, for sure. Even when you just sort of like throw something at them in the dressing room, like a water bottle or a tape ball or something like that, just the way that they catch versus, a baseball playing goalie versus a non-baseball playing goalie, or just player in general, right? Like that was one of the
Yeah.
things we would do for warm up before games is we would do all the sports. We would throw the baseball around, we would play soccer, we'd throw the football around, and yeah, some guys just have it, and some less so. And Holt is one of those guys where if you were to watch him just play catch with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
like you didn't know he was a hockey player, you could go ahead and say, yeah, that guy played baseball, like he was a professional baseball player. So makes a big difference. You can see it on the ice, absolutely, and maybe it's a more of a North American thing. I don't know if that's fair to say, but I don't think the
Perhaps, yeah.
Europeans play a ton of baseball or
Mm-hmm.
catching sports. So I have noticed it. Harry also very good, but Braden is for sure the best I've seen.
Saskatchewan guy, right? Yeah, a lot of baseball and
Yeah,
softball in
Lloyd.
Saskatchewan.
Oh yeah,
Oh, he's Lloydminster
yes,
guy? Oh,
absolutely.
nice. Oh, yeah.
He's
Okay. Yeah,
Lloyd. Yeah,
baseball, of course.
he's got a daughter, 11-year-old, who is a phenomenal softball player. Like
Really?
if their team this year they have a chance to go play at the Little League World Series for softball, I'm hoping that team makes it. They're
No
pretty strong,
way.
so yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that. Mitch Love, who was the former assistant coach here, his daughter
Yeah.
played in it last year too. So there's definitely a correlation between baseball and softball and hockey.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Quick Josh George's story. I was in Kelowna about a month ago and interviewed Josh. And one of the things that I asked him about was the Montreal experience. And he told an incredible Jean Beliveau story where him and Mr. Beliveau were at the Bell Center, and a fan came up and asked Josh George's for an autograph. And he kind of did I don't have anything. And Mr. Beliveau pulled out 2 Sharpies and gave one to Josh, and he signed and all that. And Beliveau said, you play on the Montreal Canadiens now. People are going to want your autograph. You keep this Sharpie wherever you go. Do you have a thought, or does
Oh,
that story resonate with you as an ex-Montreal Canadian, Karl?
that's a veteran move right there. And I never had that happen where I was just out and about and I needed a Sharpie. But I will tell you this, when I was going through my free agency process, and I was actually on my way to Dallas to go meet with the Stars. And Montreal at the time was not really on the radar. And then it was
Mm-hmm.
last minute where my agent said, hey, we're going to send you to Montreal first before Dallas. And I was just like, okay, I hadn't even heard them in the conversation. And so we get on a plane, we land. This is within hours. And I land and I drive to the practice facility. And as we're in the taxi, I have somebody driving beside us in a van, like giving us the thumbs up that we were there to talk with the Habs. And I'm like, how the heck does anybody know that we're here? I barely even knew that we were here. It is a
Wow.
different beast there. I don't know if it was there was somehow
Yeah.
word got out, or if it was facial recognition. He recognized me, which I find hard to believe, but it is on a different level than pretty much any other place. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by that story.
Probably followed you from the airport, as creepy as that sounds. Hey, look, that's Karl Alzner. Let's follow him. Where's he going? He's going to Broussard. Oh, hey, what's going on? Okay, so this Stanley Cup Final has been a banger. Like, for those that thought that Carolina and Vegas was going to be a snooze, guess again, this has become must-watch television. All 3 games have had intrigue and comebacks and great performances. And Saturday wasn't a game. Saturday was like 4 games, all wrapped up into one. You know, it was like the low event first period, then Vegas explodes, Marner with the hat trick in the second, and then here comes the comeback. Along the way, we had 2 disallowed goals. There's a Marner penalty shot. There's the goalie pull. There's a video review. There's fans that are howling. Like, I mean, outside of someone streaking, this game kind of had everything in it. Like, what goes through your mind as an NHLer watching this thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm guilty of sometimes turning games off because I think it's going to be over, and then I'll get a
Yeah,
text just asking me if I'm watching, and I'm like, "There's no way anything happened." And sure enough, something has happened, and that's happened to me this playoffs a couple times. I got to stop doing that. But that the roller coaster that we're on as a fan right now is absolutely
hmm
amazing, right? Like this, you nailed it. I guarantee there was lots of people who were thinking Vegas, Carolina, not going to be a draw. Like,
yeah,
I don't even know if I'm going to watch it. And if you've said that and you haven't been watching, then you're missing out. Like what you said is maybe one of the better series we've ever seen. Like there's so
yeah,
much talent on these teams. They're so hardworking. They do not give up ever, which you would hope in a Stanley Cup final. But
yeah,
yeah, it is must watch TV. And you're seeing guys break out that you may not have cheered for before, but now that they're on different
yeah,
teams, like Mitch Marner, you can't help but just kind of get behind the guy and root for him, right?
yeah,
It's pretty amazing to see, and I'm loving it right now. And just kind of selfishly, like the Vegas has so many ties to the Capitals as well that
yes,
you want to see those guys do well. And then from the Carolina side, like they've had a great team for years, but they've never been able to get out of that third round, second round in instances as well. And now they're there. So it's like you're kind of cheering for them. Like, are they the underdog? Are they finally there? It's a very interesting series to watch. And yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat. Couple overtime games. My wife went to bed last game when it was going into overtime. She's like, I can't do this. And I'm like, oh, I'll be up in 5 minutes, I'm
oh
sure.
yeah,
Double overtime. I'm just dragging myself upstairs, but you can't pull yourself away from it. It's too good.
yeah. No, it's been fantastic, and I'm glad you mentioned Mitch Marner. Now, Adam Oates has always made the point that because it always seems like everything's an audit on Toronto when it comes to Mitch Marner, rightly or wrongly. I guess it's the first year, so it's kind of inevitable. But Oates' point about Marner was always in Toronto, Marner had to do everything. It was always in service of Austin Matthews. Get him the puck. We want to see that shot. We just got to go fetch the puck and get it to Matthews. And he said there was no one who did anything in service of Marner there. But now Marner finds himself with this kind of like traveling all-star team in Vegas. He doesn't have to be the guy. He's playing with one of, when he's healthy, one of the best two-way centers in the game in William Karlsson. And then there's like on the left side, there's this year's edition of John Druce and Brett Howden, who's got 13 goals in the playoffs so far. It's been remarkable. So maybe considering Marner's skill set, we shouldn't be surprised that if Vegas wins the Stanley Cup, he's probably going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, Carl. Do you have a thought on Marner through all this?
Yeah, I knew his game, obviously, from playing against him and seeing him
Yeah.
play, but we're definitely seeing a different level. Like when he touches the puck, he takes over, right? His confidence with it, his ability to hold on to it and create space for other players as well is I didn't even realize it was that good. Just dangerous every time he touches it. And when I heard your comment
Yeah.
about that, or I guess Otzi's comment, but I heard it through you, it got me thinking of some of the other teams that have been successful. And like what I can relate to is the Pittsburgh Penguins when they won, right? It's you say Howden and kind of coming out of nowhere. I'd say Gensel, who we didn't really expect, and even the year before that, like Connor Sheary had an amazing year. And so
Yeah.
you have Crosby and Malkin, who are the two guys, let's say Marner and Matthews. But then you also had a Kunitz that kind of came out of nowhere. You had a Kessel who was playing on the third line, Bonino, who
Yeah.
was an unbelievable shutdown guy who also contributed that year. Hornquist, like you need that depth, and we're seeing that from the Vegas Golden Knights right now, and Carolina has it as well. They go up and down the lineup too, and then same thing with last year and the Panthers. So just going down the
hmm
makeup of your team, yeah, you got to have and you want to have some of those all stars, but like to have those 1B or 2A players on your team just
Sure.
goes such a long way, because you're going to have a Slavin who's going to try and completely shut down your top guy and your top line. So you got to have those secondary players, and it's just an
Mhm.
amazing comment, because Marner doesn't have to be the only one anymore, and we're seeing him absolutely flourish. And maybe some Leafs fans aren't too happy about it, but I am ecstatic for the guy, and happy that he's being able to do what he's doing
Yeah.
right now.
I'm curious, as a defenseman, what went through your mind on that one Marner goal that really wasn't his shot? It was Sean Walker's putting it in his own net, and he just like just the weight of the world is on him. That is like, that's got to be the
Yeah.
worst skate back to the bench. Does part of you just go like, oh, gut punch for Walker on that one?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't. It's so hard to really think too deeply into that as a player, right? Like, some of those things happen. I was guilty of it so
Yeah.
many times, where you're in the right place, and the wrong thing happens. And my kids still make fun of me to this day, because I told them that I had a shot go off my butt and into the net, from I think it was Robert Lang. And I'm just like, look, sometimes you're in the perfect spot and it just doesn't go your way. And
Yeah.
those good players, if they're around the net, they create stuff like that, right? You gotta create those bounces for yourself, and if you're not in there battling, you're never going to get those bounces. So, as the defenseman, or the player in the D zone, there's nothing you can really look too far into it. You have to flush it and go, and that's what these playoffs
Mhm.
are all about. So, it is what it is. I hate it as a D man, but I'll tell you a funny story about that, actually, really quick. Is one of the
Sure.
the part owners of the Caps, Rich Fairbanks. He pulled me aside one year. I think it was after my second year, and I had a lot of, I was always in the mix with my stick, trying to block shots, and every now and then they go off you and in the net. And he came up to me, and he's heart of gold. This guy, he didn't mean it in
Mhm.
any bad way, but he's like, "Hey, Carl, let's keep track this year of how many goals you score, and then how many go in off of you, and let's see where we're at the end of the year." And I'm just like, I don't really know how to take this, but I'm going to do my best to make sure I'm on the right side of this. And so it is just one of those things as a defenseman, especially a defensive defenseman, where you're unfortunately that happens, and you're a casualty sometimes.
But that I've always felt for defensemen, because whenever one goes in off a defenseman's stick, it's always like, get your stick out of there, get your stick out of there, move it, let the goalie have the shot. And I say to myself, for every one that goes in, there's like 30 that hit the mesh. Like,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
smart play. And if
absolutely.
you're playing percentages, like with percentages like that, you win every game. The odd one goes in, or
Yeah,
maybe hits a bar. Like, I'm just like, I don't know that I'm willing to make that trade off. Like, I'm still like,
I
no, get
agree.
that stick there.
I agree. And we had this rule in Montreal where they wanted the defenseman to get out of the way, because they had Carey Price back there. We want him to
Yeah,
see every shot and let him make that save, which I get, but that is hard to get out of somebody's DNA when that's your thing, to get in there
totally.
and sacrifice and block a shot. And I remember clear as day, we were in Montreal and the Caps were in town, and Nick Backstrom had the puck on the half wall. It was on the power play, and all I can think is in my head, okay, get out of the way, like, give him that lane to shoot. And back, he took one step in, and beat Carey, low blocker, far side. And I'm just in my head, I'm like, oh, I probably could have blocked that. This is so frustrating. And after the game, he came up to me and he's like, hey, why didn't you block that? Like, why did you give me that shot? And I'm like, dude, I I don't even get me started. I wanted to block it so bad, but that was the rule on that team: is if you could get out of the
Mhm.
way to give the goalie the shot, give him the shot. And so, yeah, you're right. It's like, you block way more than you tip into your net, and I'm a big fan of it. I know some people don't like seeing a defenseman swimming on the ice trying to
Yeah.
stop stuff, but I think you're playing the percentages there.
I think of a quick story of a defenseman from the Western League by the name of David Cooper, who was a first-round draft pick, played at Medicine Hat, and he was playing in Germany towards the end of his career. There's this old school German coach by the name of Hans Zach, who was Carl. I didn't even want to say he was from the old school. He was from the school they burned down to build the old school. That's how old school this guy was. Okay. So Cooper shows up around Christmas time, the first wave of like the North American guys that are coming in after the teams had some difficulties, and Cooper had small shin pads, and so he gets to the circle for a stretch before the practice, and Zach makes him stand up, and he says, "What are those?" And he says, What, these are my shin pads? He goes, no, go see the trainer and get different shin pads. He goes, why am I getting different shin pads? He goes, so you can block shots. And in front of all the guys, David Cooper says, well, we don't have a goalie on this team. I can just imagine all the guys just put their head down. Like, but when it comes to like the blocking shot story, like we can't go any further. I'm not a big fan of my sport is better than your sport. My sport is tougher than your sport, all that kind of stuff. Every sport has its own challenges, and every athlete for their sport, has skills that other sports don't have. But man, I was really happy I'm a hockey fan when I saw Braden McNabb play game 3. And with the cage and the zips all over his nose and probably inside his nose too. Just that visual as the camera pans over to him. I was like, man, I'm really proud to be a hockey fan. Maybe I don't know if it's right or wrong to think that way, but a guy that just took an 87 mile per hour slap shot in the face and is playing the next game. But the hockey guy in here kind of went, man, I'm really happy to be a hockey fan right now. What did you think of all that? Shot in the face, come back the next game, birdcage on. Karl Alzner, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, you know what? I didn't even flinch for a second thinking he wouldn't be in the lineup, and unless there was something that needed surgery, you know that the guy's going to be back in. It's just the list of injuries that guys play through that we all look forward to seeing after every series, just to see what they've put themselves through is one of the most exciting things for me, because I'm always curious, what can players find a way to play through. And so that when that happened, I was just like, I can't wait to see, what kind of seamstress got to his face and what they were able to do to put him back together. Because you need something special after that. It sucks and you don't want that to happen. But this is one of the best things about playoff hockey is you do not care what happens to you. You find a way to come back. And of all players, that's the guy. And I said to you before we started, it reminds me of the Ovi thing in Vegas where he takes the puck in the face on the bench and he looks disgusted that it happened. He doesn't look like he's hurt. He's disgusted that puck tried to hurt him and he hurt the puck with his jaw. You know what I mean? It's like that's what makes our sport so exciting and so fun is the level of toughness that guys are willing to bring to the playoffs and even the regular season. So don't like to see that happen. Happy that he's okay enough to play. But yeah, he's absolute warrior, and I'm sure he's one of a long list of guys right now.
I've never heard it framed that way about a veteran, that he was angry at the puck for hitting him, as if he was like somehow offended that the puck would have the nerve to get that high. Exactly. Really quick before we get to Ross here, how many times have you eaten one? It's never fun, but how many times did you get caught, whether it's in junior, whether it's in the NHL? How often for you?
Well, my first year pro in the minors, I tipped a puck into my face and lost my first tooth. And I learned a really good lesson there, and it was always, I always would go in, I was a one knee down block shot guy, always stick out in front of me to try and tip it, which is a recipe for disaster, right? And so I learned early. I always brought a hand up to my mouth when I would go down, just in case, because coaches hated when you would turn your head away, right? And I say this to the kids in baseball right now too. I'm like, you need to get your head down behind the ball, get on its level so that you can make that play with your glove. And that was the same way with blocking shots. Like when you're watching the puck off the stick, and as scary as it is to see it coming up towards your face, it's way easier to block that puck. So I always would bring a hand up to the mouth to try and limit the damage. And I got super lucky that my jaw took a lot of the impact. I didn't get too many right directly in the mouth, but I've got the jaw scars to prove it, and I got this big meaty jaw too. So I was lucky that it took the brunt of most of those pucks. But I was more of a hand guy. I got him in the hands and the feet all the time, and face, only a handful of times. So nothing as gruesome as what McNabb had to deal with.
Okay, first point, I'm shocked that you got out of junior clean. But second point, what part of you is proud that hockey got its tooth from Alzner? Hockey always takes a tooth. Hockey always takes a tooth.
I wish that I would have just got a flipper and so I could flip it out. Cause I get asked that question all the time. I got asked it twice
Yeah.
this weekend again, just like how many teeth are yours, whatever. And I just wish I would have had that, got a flipper just so I can, show people that. But I was early in my career. I'm like, I'm just going to get this fixed right away. And so, yeah, you got to give a little to this sport, right? It gives you so much, so
Yeah.
you got to give back. And we pay with teeth instead of anything else.
I remember talking to Trevor Linden once. I said, when did it dawn on you that your career was really done? And he said, because when it's over, like it doesn't feel, because the career just ended. I said, when did it really feel like it was over? And he said, when I was in the dentist chair and I was getting my teeth fixed, because there's no point in getting it done while you're playing. It's like right at the end when I was getting all my dental surgery, I'm like, wow, I'm really never going back. I'm really never.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you? Like, I'm really going back. I'm getting these things fixed.
Yeah, that's what everyone always says. Like, don't get any work done until you're done, because that's
Yeah.
it's just a matter of time when it's going to happen. And I'll tell you, it was one of the funnier stories that just goes to show you what it's like to hang out with a group of hockey players. Well, one, it happens all the time where you leave dinner, a team dinner on the road, and someone has to call back, or they call you, whoever made the reservation is like, hey, we have a tooth on the table. What do you guys want us to do with it? And they got to go back and grab their tooth. All the time that happens. You sit down and everyone just pulls out their teeth and sets them on the table. But we were out one time in Syracuse. This was towards the end of my career, and we were playing just a fun little drinking game where everybody, without going into too much detail, the last two people battle to see who has to chug the pint of beer. And the one guy finished it. He's chugging the pint of beer. He gets to the end and he just slams it down on the table. And the one guy that was with us, his name is Marchie. He's like, Marchie, you are disgusting. And we look, and Marchie had, when no one was looking, dropped his tooth into the bottom of the pint glass. the guy ended up having to drink it with Marchie's tooth in there. So it's just the stupid things we do.
There was, now I can't believe we're going down this road here. I swear we're going to get to Ross Mahoney here in a second. Last story. There was, I think it was Sven Tumba, Swedish hockey players, who was at training camp with the Boston Bruins. Carl, this would have been in the 60s. This is when everybody, like everyone at every dressing room stall had the glass of water. The guys would take out their teeth and put it in the glass of water and practice, then come back and pop their teeth back in. And I think it was Sven. I hope I'm right. It was a Swedish player. I think it was Sven to him. But anyway, so he's having a hard time bonding with the guys, but he sees all the guys are playing jokes on one another, right? Like it's just like nonstop ribbing. And so he thought it'd be funny if he's the last guy to get out on the ice for practice. He switched all the teeth in all the cups of water. And none of the guys found it funny, because the only way to tell if it's your teeth is to put them in. So after practice, they were like lit, and he ended up getting sent back to Sweden, didn't make the team. But all the guys were livid at him because they had to try on everybody. Oh, can you imagine trying on all your teammates' teeth, Carl?
No, not at all. Oh God, that's just one of the weird things that happens in the room. And it's the best when it comes from someone you wouldn't expect, just off the top rope with a prank like that. It doesn't get any better than that. That's too funny.
That's a good one. Okay, so last time we were together, you told the story about what you sort of described as like your disastrous interview with the Washington Capitals at your draft. And I think you kind of said like, I left that meeting saying, well, I know I'm not going to the Caps. But then they drafted you. So I was at the scouting combine last week in Buffalo, and I had a chance to speak with Ross Mahoney. We're going to play the interview here in a second, but I wanted you to see this clip and get you to comment on it. So this is me telling Ross about your description of your interview with the Washington Capitals in the Wayback Machine. Here's Ross Mahoney in Buffalo. We had Karl Alzner on the program not too long ago, and he talked about what he considers to be a disastrous interview with the Washington Capitals. And I think we go look back at that draft, and I think everybody thought that LA was going to grab Alzner. Instead, they went Hickey, and Washington grabbed Karl Alzner. He said he was surprised because in his mind, his interview was a disaster. He was asked to tell a joke. He said it flopped, and he didn't think for 1 second that the Washington Capitals were going to draft him. I might be reaching here, but do you remember the Alzner interview at all? Or do you remember him in his draft year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't It's kind of funny that he said that.
Yeah.
You know, my more interpretation of it was Karl was very mature. You know, I could see why he had been captain on his some of the teams that he played growing up, but he was very mature.
Yeah.
Very obviously very conscientious if he thought that his interview wasn't very good.
He said he said something along the lines of,
Yeah.
I left thinking, well, they're not going to take me. I was terrible in there.
Yeah, no, he was actually pretty impressive. Like I said, with his maturity, and you knew he was going to be a good leader. You know, he had those leadership qualities, and just a good person.
Okay, is Ross Mahoney giving you a soft landing?
Well, you know what? It's a great point because it just goes to show you how much stock these kids put into these interviews and everything going on there, that you are dissecting every little bit about it. And that's not what these teams are looking for, right? They're just looking to see if you answer the question and how you answer it. Do you make eye contact? Like, you know, are you a mature human being or are you just a little kid? And it's like, those are the things that they're looking for. Whereas us as players, and probably some agents to an extent, you're just nitpicking all the little details about it. And in the end, it does not matter. They want to know, can you hang in the dressing room? Are you mature enough to handle some of these moments? If we put you in front of the TV cameras, are you going to say something stupid, or are you going to be able to handle yourself and have that tough conversation? So I was been thinking about it so much lately, especially seeing this combine stuff. It's just we build it up way more as players and as parents of players than these teams do, I think.
I think you're probably 100% right. Okay, so without further ado, the man that talked about Karl Alzner and focused on his maturity, here he is. And this is, by the way, this is his 29th draft. 29
Crazy.
drafts for Ross Mahoney. Just outstanding. One of the greatest in the field. Here's Ross Mahoney, scout for the Washington Capitals, assistant general manager with the Caps on the Hockey Lifers. First of all, Ross, thanks so much for this. I know you're busy. Does this feel, I mean, we're here at the Combine in Buffalo. Does this kind of have like a Christmas morning leading into the draft vibe about this for you? Like, you're happy here. This is Ross Mahoney territory.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you go out and watch these kids all year, and I really enjoy getting to meet them off the ice, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being able to spend a few minutes with them. And, you know, there's about 110 kids that are probably invited to this year's Combine, and we try to interview probably 65 to 70, but we make a point of talking to every single player that was invited here, whether it's in the hallway or in the hotel, and try to get to know all of them. But yeah, it's I look forward to coming here and watching them, talking to them.
Do you find the kids now are more comfortable talking than ever before? Like, once upon a time, it was these kids were super nervous. Like, oh, I'm going in there to talk to Washington. Oh, there's Ross Mahoney. Like, nowadays, kids just seem more comfortable.
Yeah, they really are. And I try to put myself in their shoes when I was that age.
Yeah.
And I would have been so nervous. You know, you walk in a room and you've got the general manager, assistant GM, you know, maybe 5 or 6 other scouts, and it's amazing how well they handle themselves, and you know how eloquently they speak, and how thoughtful they are. And it seems like it gets better every year. I thought last year's group was really good, and this year's group has been as good or better.
You know, one of the when I think of great Combine interviews, I'll tell you one of the best Combine interviews I was ever part of. Was a player that you drafted, Hendrix Lapierre. I remember when he left the room, I was like, what a personality, what an interview. Like, that was like, I don't know if you like sort of rank interviews, or do you have certain interviews with players that really popped for you? But I can recall, like, after talking to Hendrix Lapierre, I'm like, I don't know what he's going to amount to as a player, but that's a heck of a personality.
Yeah, he really was. He was a really good interview, and ironically, he was a big Washington Capitals, you know, fan.
Yeah.
Growing up, he talked about his bedroom, and he had the Capitals posters and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, it worked out for us and for Hendrix.
You know, I find that that kids nowadays, since they live their lives publicly on social media, like, the idea of privacy doesn't really exist to them. They expect everything about themselves and everybody else out there to be out in the open. And I wonder if that's a contributing factor to why, you know, even in hockey now, kids are more comfortable in social settings, whether it's, I'm sitting here with Ross Mahoney and Chris Patrick, like, holy smokes, this is supposed to be intimidating, and they're comfortable.
Yeah.
I wonder if social media has actually helped them that way.
I think it probably has, for sure. And I think they have a lot more exposure to media in general. I think even playing in their junior games and college games and doing their post-game interviews, and I think it's probably more in depth than it was 25 years ago or 20 years ago as far as that. And so I think they're exposed, either to the social media or to media in general.
Yeah. How many drafts is this for you now? Like 30?
This will be my 29th draft I've run for the Capitals. And then I was, worked 5 years part-time with Vancouver and a couple with Buffalo before that. But I'm 20. I don't know how that's happened. But it's been, I've been very fortunate, But you work for a really good organization with great ownership and 29th draft running it with the same team.
The obvious question then becomes, from your first pick, which would have been Alexander Ovechkin, correct me if I'm wrong there, to now, what the main differences?
In the running the drafts? I think technology has really improved. When I first started, you were doing your reports in triplicate on a form that you filled out, and you'd mail the form in, the white copy and the pink copy to the office on Monday morning, and then you keep the yellow copy in a binder at home. Even when I got to Washington, I remember George McPhee hired me, and George was like, get a cell phone. So I had to go get a cell phone. The cell phones were just coming out. And then
could you imagine doing this without a cell phone now?
No. And then, and then computers, and then computer programs, and some of the stories about trying to follow these younger players a long time ago without GPS, and I'm over in Europe, and you're driving and trying to get to a rink, and it was I had to give myself a lot more time before I left the hotel to get to the game than I do today. But technology was probably one of the biggest things, and even the Combine is fantastic because we end up with all the players, 110 of them, like I said, here in the same place. Before, you'd be running around and interviewing them all over the place, and I'm sure it's a lot easier for the kids, to be interviewed in a central place, and the fitness testing, is all done here. Before, they were, like I said, teams were going around, and Central does a fantastic job of setting this up for us.
Sure. I remember it used to just used to take place at a hotel by the airport in Toronto.
Yeah.
And it was fly in one day and fly out, and that was it. And now it's turned into a week-long event.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen this evolve.
Yeah, a lot. It's the testing that they do now, and the technology again that they use to record the tests that they do. It's and to be able to get the feedback from it almost immediately from Central Scouting. It's a big change. It's really evolved for the good.
There's so much information that comes in. And there's the old saying, you can never have enough information, never. And I kind of look at that statement sideways and say to myself, is that really true that you can't have enough information? Like, is there a process that you need to go through to sort of streamline the information that comes in about players, just to take away the cloudiness around, like, there's gonna be a lot of information here from the Combine, a lot of information following kids for so many years, different eyeballs, different reports. Do you find that maybe one of the biggest challenges in your position is streamlining all the info so you get a concise read?
Yeah, and I think you have to be careful. They run through the battery of tests, and it's really good, but we still have to remember that the game is being played on the ice, and so you have to be careful with that, I think. But our strength coaches are fantastic. They kind of streamline a lot of that information for me,
right,
and be able to tell me what they can try to project where the kids will be, 5 or 6 years from now. So, it's but you have to be careful with too much information, and I think you have to be able to, like I said, put it in a package that's presentable, that makes sense, that helps you make better decisions as far as coming up with your final list.
I remember talking to one strength and conditioning coach, pretty much like right here where we were, and I was like, what do you get out of all this? And he said, the main thing that I get out of all of this from these kids is where they're predisposed to injury. That, whatever happens and whatever the results are, but what I'm interested in is where are the weak spots in the body. That's what I'm interested in. Does that resonate with you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think, and then, your medical team comes into play also, your trainers. as far as getting information on some of those injuries. But yeah, no, the strength coaches, that's a part of it. Whether this young player will be prone to injury, or it could even be a goaltender maybe, and have to be careful with their hips and groins and that sort of thing. But yeah, no, it's a lot of information, but it's valuable for sure.
Let me ask you about a couple of players, and I do want to get to Ovechkin for the obvious reasons, but we had Karl Alzner on the program not too long ago, and he talked about what he considers to be a disastrous interview with the Washington Capitals. And I think we go look back at that draft, and I think everybody thought that LA was going to grab Alzner. Instead, they went Hickey, and Washington grabbed Karl Alzner. He said he was surprised because in his mind, his interview was a disaster. He was asked to tell a joke. He said it flopped. And he didn't think for 1 second that the Washington Capitals were going to draft him. I might be reaching here, but do you remember the Alzner interview at all? Or do you remember him in his draft year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's kind of funny that he said that.
Yeah.
My more interpretation of it was Karl was very mature. I could see why he had been captain on his some of the teams that he played growing up, but he was very mature.
Yeah.
Very. Obviously very conscientious if he thought that his interview wasn't very good.
He said something along the lines of, I left thinking, well, they're not going to take me. I was terrible in there.
Yeah, no, he was actually pretty impressive. Like I said, with his maturity, and you knew he was going to be a good leader. He had those leadership qualities, and just a good person.
Things, and I've always wondered about this with you and the Washington Capitals. Everything changes when you get someone like Alex Ovechkin. How much conversation was there around that first-round pick? Ovechkin, Malkin. Was it a surefire right from the get-go that you guys were taking Ovechkin?
Yes, and I will say that with no disrespect to any other player that was involved in the draft. Obviously, Malkin was a tremendous talent also. Probably conventional wisdom might say you should take a center instead of the winger. But we felt the hardest thing to do in the NHL, and I still feel that today, is be able to score goals.
Yeah.
Now, did we think Alex would score the number of goals that he had? If he had 500 or 600, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So that part of it was his ability to score. He'd done it at every level, and we thought he would be able to do it in the NHL. And his physicality. I don't think I'd seen that combination of someone with that kind of skill level, but be able to be so physical. Maybe second in the league in all time in hits.
Sounds right.
You just don't get that. Usually, I think the one year he won the scoring title, he might have been 8th or 9th, and a lot of times that person's 510th in the league in hits and body checks. So it was that physicality, the ability to score goals, and obviously he had a real presence on the ice, and he had that attitude where he wanted to show you why people were talking about him. He wanted to be the best. And so, we talked about other people in the draft, but he was the guy that we had targeted, and for those two reasons, among others. And like I said, that's no disrespect to anybody else that was in the draft.
Your work and your team's work between 2006 and 2015, your hit rate was incredible as you put together what was going to be a Stanley Cup winning team. Again, like I mentioned, everything changes when you have someone like Alex Ovechkin. Did you feel extra pressure? Did your staff feel extra pressure knowing that we've got someone we can build a Stanley Cup champion around here? We can't miss. We can't miss.
I kind of feel that with every draft, every year.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss. I think there's a little bit of luck involved in it too. We ended up being able to draft Nick Backstrom. In a lot of other years, Nick could have gone number 1. And I remember that draft. We knew Eric Johnson was going to go number 1. So one of our scouts was quite sure the information he had found out was Stahl was going to go number 2. And I'm sitting there going, well, if Chicago takes Backstrom, we get Taves. If they take Taves, we get Backstrom. And it was probably one of the better sleeps I had the night before the draft. And it turned out being Nick, and we were really happy that he would be there. Perfect compliment to Alex. Nick was such an intelligent, unselfish, player with that ability to pass the puck almost to a fault, where you'd have to tell him to shoot more, But so lucky to have that, and that really helped the foundation really grow along with the other picks that we made. But as far as making those picks, it's you just have to have a good staff, hire good people, and develop a good chemistry amongst your scouting team, and you'll have success.
You mentioned the Backstrom draft, the Vancouver draft. There's a great clip out there of George McPhee and Jeff Gorton. And then coming back to the table, and let's pretend that we're talking because we're not going to let go of that pick. How much do you remember from that moment when George came back to the table?
Put her hand over the microphone as if we're having a big discussion about what we're doing, and we're strategizing.
Yes.
And I'm sure people were,
flip picks, give us a second.
Yeah. And it was like, we're just going to take our time and call Nick's name out. Yeah. I think it got other people thinking a little bit, so seeing if there's any other calls that were going to come in and about the pick. But George was pretty very calm and cool, at the draft. He was always really good.
Did you ever sort of wonder what would have happened if it was Jonathan Toews and not Nick Backstrom? Like, I've always felt that Nick Backstrom probably should have won some Selke trophies along the way. He was pretty underrated as a defensive center, as well as someone who I believe had the most points in his draft class, or was right up there. You ever wonder what that dynamic would have been like Ovechkin and Toews as opposed to Ovechkin and Backstrom? I mean, Backstrom and Ovechkin just seemed like so perfect together, but it could have been Toews.
Yeah. I mean, obviously two tremendous players. You look at the career that Jonathan Toews has had, and kind of like Nick in a way with the unselfishness. Another hardworking, unselfish guy, and I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it, but I just was so happy that we were able to get Nick, because I thought he was just such a good fit for Alex. Yeah, it was unbelievable that we were able to get him.
There's sometimes there's picks where you run to the podium because you can't believe the player's there. Do you have any moments where you're like, George, get up there. George, put on your running shoes. Get up there. This guy's still available. Get up there. Like any picks where you're just like genuinely surprised that this guy is still there for Washington?
Yeah, I don't know if there'd be. I mean, we weren't surprised, like I said, because we thought Nick would be there, but I just wanted to get up there and call his name out and get that sweater on him, because we knew he was going to be something special, like I said, for the organization and for Alex. But I'd have to think a little more on that one. But.
So let me ask you about what happens after the player is picked, because we focus on so much on like identification and then drafting and then NHL, and we forget about the whole development piece altogether here too. Like, your staff put together a Stanley Cup champion. I think one of the things that we don't value enough or talk about enough is there's American Hockey League championships here too with Hershey Bears that I don't think we talk about either. So like, your staff has put together NHL champions, AHL champions as well. Do we, and I'm indicting myself here as a media member, do we in the media not talk about the development piece enough, considering how important that is?
Yeah, it is really important. I think it's development and opportunity, but you can draft a lot of good players, but if you're not developing them, you're not going to have the success that you have. And like a lot of people say, when we won the Cup, I think we had 16 drafted players play at least one game, maybe 11 or 12 played every game. And we had our obvious Nick Backstroms and Alex Ovechkins and Kuznetsovs and the first round guys, but we also had a Christian Juice taken in the 7th round that played 23 games. And, for a player like Christian, that doesn't happen without getting really good development. And I mean, you're right. I mean, a lot of those kids came through, Alzner, Carlson, they all came through Hershey. And Hershey has had a lot of success down there. I think, since we moved there, I think we've had 7 Calder Cup finalists, 5 Calder Cup winners. So development is huge. And I think we were one of the first teams to get a person that was really responsible strictly for development. So we had Steve Richmond, who was one of my area scouts. And we took Steve and we put Steve in that development role. His son Danny was drafted early in the 2nd round, I think by Carolina. So Steve had and he played in the minors for a long time and maybe 150 games in the NHL. So Steve did a fantastic job getting that set up, and we added to it with Brooks Orpik and working with the defensemen and Ole Kolzig and Jim Slater, and it's huge. I mean, just because you draft them, you can't assume they're just going to, morph their way into being this NHL player. Someone's got to help them along the way. And they get out and watch them practice and watch them play games and take them out for supper or lunch and work with them. And development is huge. And you're right, it's not talked about enough.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned Christian Juice a second ago, and I because I'm old enough to have watched his dad.
Yeah.
Was still one of the best names in the history of the NHL. Pear Juice, like good Lord, I love it. But second generation players, like how much of I don't know if you get like an extra premium you put on second generation players because they grew up in an environment where dad played in the NHL, and whether it's maybe even as simple as you understand the protocol of who checks into the hotel first, where you sit on the bus, like different protocol-y things, second generation players just know. Like I was talking to Jay McKee, who's now with the Islanders organization, formerly with the Bulldogs in the OHL. And we're talking about Caleb Malhotra. And I said, was there one moment that really it hit you that Caleb Malhotra had a father who played in the NHL? And he said, yes. He said, the beginning of the season, Caleb Malhotra came up to me and said, Coach, can you do me a favor? Can you give me a list of the first names of all the linesmen in the Ontario Hockey League? I want to have a first name relationship with all of them. Maybe I get a puck drop closer to me on a draw. I don't know. But it's like, that wouldn't dawn on someone who didn't have a father that already went through it.
Yeah.
Tiny little things like that. Like how much of a premium as a scout do you put on things like that with second generation players?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's those players have the advantage of learning all the little things, that kind of add up to give you success because their fathers have, or it could be mothers, now have passed on to them. So it's probably an advantage to them when they're younger, and then hopefully those are leaders too, and they help pass that information on to the other players in their organizations. And I really credit a lot of the fathers that played in the NHL that have given back to the game and started coaching.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're takers from the game. We just take. And they've given back. I look at some of the different places in the States now that are producing a lot of players, and a lot of times you track back and it's because there's an NHL former player that's, had children that then gave back to the game and coaching. And it's really good. We're seeing more and more, I think, sons of NHL players the last 10 years that are getting drafted and playing junior college.
Makes me feel older every year. Like I covered his dad.
Yeah, I know. Scouted dad down to scouting his son. I'm like, Malhotra's a good example. And I go, oh boy, I guess I'm getting old. Yeah.
Just while we're here, just mentioning Caleb Malhotra, like drafts are all different, but in some ways they're similar too. How would you characterize this group of kids? We talked about the personalities before, but is there anything skill-wise that you've noticed? Anything that's like something in this draft that you say, well, this draft is unique because of X or Y or Z?
Yeah, I guess it's probably similar to some other drafts, but there's some high-end defensemen earlier in the draft this year, and doing the interviews, there's a lot of really tall, large players. I thought last year was kind of like that also. It seemed like the height and weight. I'd have to go back and track it, but it seems like last year and this year, there's a lot of really, really tall, a lot of 6'3", 6'4", 6'5".
Size
There's even
back.
some 6'7", 6'8".
Oh, I know. I always wonder, like, is it possibly? We see this with goaltenders all the time. Like I've always felt that sweet spot for goalies is like 6'3". Okay, but we've seen some 6'6". Like we've seen like large goaltenders. Is it possible to be too big for a position? Like there's some guys you look at and go like, okay, hold on a second here, too big.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It probably comes up as a discussion with our group a lot with goalies. I mean, if you track it back, there's a lot of Stanley Cup winning goalies were almost more around the 6'2" range, and then there's been the Vasilevskis and some bigger goalies that have won. But I don't know.
I just kind of look at size with goalies, and like one of the luxuries of having a big goalie is you get accidental saves.
Yeah.
He just stopped it because he's big.
Yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of people look at large goalies and say, let's work with this.
But then you also have to hope that they're athletic enough that they can make that second and third save.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting.
I think size is coming back. Like you just mentioned, like all the big defensemen. Like there used to, I'm sure you've heard the old cliche, a small player has to prove he can play, a big player has to prove he can't.
Yeah.
Because that kind of coming back, like we're getting back to size
I don't
in
know
the NHL.
I don't know if there's more kids that are bigger that realize that they can play in the NHL, or if it's just a bit of a cycle that we're going through. Like, I think obviously when the rules changed and we couldn't hook and hold as much and that sort of thing, it seemed to open it up for smaller players and more so smaller defensemen.
Yeah.
You know, where they seem to be able to play more, defensemen that were more like 5'10", 5'11" seem to have a better chance than they did 20 years ago. But yeah, I don't know if it's just a bit of a cycle or it's something that's going to continue to,
I have a theory.
Okay.
I have a theory, Ross.
Yeah.
I use you to test my theory. So my theory is this, that hockey now, not just in Canada, but more specifically in the United States, once upon a time, kids chose hockey like third or fourth. And size is always, front and center at a premium for baseball, basketball, football, some of the big sports in the United States. But hockey is getting to a place now where some of the best athletes aren't picking baseball first and aren't picking football first. Some of the best athletes, who tend to be the bigger athletes, are choosing hockey because that's how much it's grown in the United States. And that's why we're starting to see more size come back. I'm talking from the back seat on my theory. You sit in the front seat on decisions like that. Does that make any sense to you?
It does and it doesn't, to be honest with you.
You give me a soft landing, Ross.
I get. I think when you look at football, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, they are huge.
I know.
You're talking 6'5", 6'6", 320, 340. When I look at basketball, I mean, some of the smaller guards are 6'3", like a Steve Nash. They look like they're 5'10" out there, but I still think that hockey, you can still play if you're 5'11" or 6 foot, and I think a lot of kids maybe have gravitated towards that a little bit. Plus, in the U.S., I think the registrations and how the game has grown to be the whole country. I'm sure there's a lot of kids, really good athletes that do have good size, have decided to choose that sport because they went to a game in Dallas when they were younger, or they went to a game in, Florida when they were younger, and they liked what they saw and they wanted to try it, and then fell in love with the game. Before it was like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, and New England area, and that was probably it. It wasn't Texas, and we interviewed a young player today from Idaho. There are not a lot of players that have come from Idaho or even been drafted from Idaho. Yeah, we've got players from Florida. We've got so I think maybe that's part of it too. Just athletes were more exposed to hockey because franchises moved there and the game has started to grow. And I mean, it takes a while. Obviously. I think that's part of it also.
Okay, let me try another theory.
You got a lot of theories.
I got a couple. That's why I love talking to you here, because you've actually done it. So I am not a scout, but every time I go to a game, go to a junior game, go to a college game, wherever, I always ask the same question. Where did the bad skaters go? Where did all the bad skaters go? It seems like everybody can skate, everybody can shoot, everybody can play. Like there's a baseline of skill that exists in this game right now. And it's the best that we've ever seen. It is the best as far as skill goes. Is it a fact, or does this ring true that now managers are saying to their scouting staffs, we know everybody can skate. We want someone that brings something else. And is that other something else toughness? Is that coming back in vogue in the NHL?
That's a good theory. Yeah.
That's legit?
Yeah. I mean, the skating part is really interesting. When I first started scouting, which a long time ago, you're right. I mean, I could go to a game and right away I would be watching the warm-ups and maybe the first period, there's some pretty easy X's to put through because I'm looking going, the level that player was skating at, no matter how hard they worked and no matter how hard, and people are funny too, they'll go, well, his skating is going to improve because he's going to go in the gym and work hard. Well, let's say I'm a really good skater. I'm going to go to the gym and work hard too. It isn't like the poor skater all of a sudden goes like this and the real good, to me, it kind of just goes up. Yeah, so I think there's way more players that are going to power skating or skating schools. I think the technology is changed a lot too.
Yes.
I mean, I'm amazed at the skill level, like you said, of the players, what they can all do. You know, once again, there's so many different skills coaches and opportunities, I think, for players to do that. So the character part, it's huge, and the toughness and having that desire to go to the hard places on the ice and to play inside the dots and to take hits to make plays is that is a factor. Like we have a gentleman in our team, Tom Wilson, who's very valuable because
I think we're all familiar with Tom Wilson's work. Yes,
he's got that ability to I mean, people maybe don't understand how fast Tom is as a skater for his size.
Yep.
And the skill level that he's got, and but he comes to play every shift. He finishes every check. And that's not fun to play against when you get into a best of 7 and you're going every second night against a guy like that.
He's not hitting the tickle.
No, he's not.
Hitting the tickle.
No, he's doing his job. Yeah, going hard to that. So, no, I think there's a lot there to it. I think a lot of kids can stick handle. A lot of kids can shoot the puck. A lot of kids skating, like you said, is really improved. And we probably had to change our scale a little bit for this level of skater here can play in the NHL. Like probably had to move it up a little bit more because the skating has improved so much.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's we always have to be aware of those things and be able to change and tweak things a little bit so we kind of try to stay ahead of the game.
I want to circle back on something really quickly about size. And let me frame it this way. I remember Tyler Myers' draft year. Sometimes I would watch games in Kelowna and he would dominate and he was massive. And it's like, wow, this guy is going so high in the draft. And then a month and a half later, I'd watch Kelowna and I was like, what happened? He just looked like a different player. And then I'd watch another game and he'd be back to being that same guy. And I talked to someone in Kelowna and said like he's had a year of growth spurts and he's like learning how to use his body as it continues to grow. I wonder about that with the Protus boys. Like when you're watching these, did they have those same like growing pains throughout the year?
Yeah, I was wondering if you're going to ask me if I knew, of a player in the past, and the older Protus especially was a great example of that. I mean, he's in Prince Albert.
Yeah.
Start of the year, he might have been about 6'4", a little bit awkward. Skating was probably off a little bit. And then by the end of the year, they go to the Memorial Cup. His skating had improved, I was like, oh boy, even more appealing. Then the next year, he started off, he was leading the league in scoring, I think, till the end of November. And then he had about a month and a half where he didn't play as well, and I talked to Curtis Hunt and I said, well, what the general manager in Prince Albert, and I said, he's a little bit off on that. He goes, he's growing another inch and a half. And so, he had that period of time where things had to catch up again. And then they did. And then his skating, got back to another level. But a great example of it for sure. And you got to be patient with those tall guys. I mean, it takes them a while to feel into their bodies and become, honestly, a little more coordinated. And I remember feeling a little bit awkward. I was like 5'10" playing junior hockey. I can't imagine being 6'4", 6'5", and what it must feel like, But a lot of times the body isn't cooperating with the mind. But no, it's true. They go through those growth spurts, and sometimes there's a little bit of a leveling off in performance, and then it pops up again.
Final question about a current camp. Like this next generation of Washington Capitals, pretty exciting. And the one player I think that's really captured imaginations we saw at the end of last season, and that's Cole Hudson. What should we know about Cole Hudson?
Oh boy, he's special. His skating ability, I think, is outstanding. Not only is he fast, but he has this escapability in our end with the puck where he could just turn so tight and so quickly to be able to avoid, the forecheckers. His hockey sense, I think, is off the charts. But what I think really kind of separates him from a lot of other young players at his age is his confidence with the puck. It's amazing how long he will hold on to it until somebody gets open. And sometimes too, I'm like, what's he doing? And I'm like, oh, that was a great play. It's embarrassing, but I'm like, why? Oh, yeah, awesome, nice play. Way to go, Cole.
What are you doing, kid? Okay.
Yeah, it's just his vision, and obviously he's got great hands, and not the biggest guy, but I think that skating ability, like I said, enables him to be able to escape the forecheck and that, and just such a feel for the game. But it's just the confidence that he has with the puck. For me, is just a lot of kids will get rid of it or dump it in or nope.
Safe it.
He's holding on to it, and he showed that in the last. I mean, I think he came up for 10 games, had a point a game, and put him on the power play. And I'm like, he's 19 years old.
Yeah,
just jumped out of college hockey and right into the NHL, and he's out there against these pros that have played so long. And I mean, he had some times with a puck where he made moves or made passes, and I mean, just be patient, and Cole's going to find you. He'll get you the puck. He's so unselfish.
I marvel at the stories of his dad, with him and his brothers, skating without laces or skating with the skates untied.
Yeah.
I never would have thought about that for 1 second. But you look at the Hudson boys, and with the way that they move their ankles and the way that they, to your point, how they escape situations.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. I can't imagine saying to my kids, like, hey, take your laces off, go skate.
Oh, I know. I'd be tying mine up so tight. They'd save on buying laces, though. They never break.
Well, that's it, right? Like, this is great. You can save $2. It's funny you mentioned, you look at him and you say, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, that's what you're doing. There seems to be an element now of, we'll close on this, Ross. There seems to be an element now with kids and their creativity. A lot of it is, sharing videos and different ideas and so many different resources available. Like, are we at a point now where we're saying about kids at the high end, they don't make the right play, they make the better play. They make the play that no one else sees coming, or that no one else can see, and then things just open up for them. Would you say that's accurate? They don't make the right play, they make the better play.
Yeah, no, I think they have the confidence now, though, to make the better play. I think the kids now are just way more confident with the puck.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to try things. They're not afraid, like you said, to make the better play. And it's it's fun to watch. It really is, and it's great for our game.
Mm-hmm.
I think the skill level has really gone up. Makes our game better, makes it exciting.
I think it all has, like the skill, the toughness, all of it. Like, I think it's all sort of gone hand to glove here. I don't know where this is going. I don't even know that the 200 by 85 rink can accommodate it.
Yeah. But
it's at a pretty interesting place right now.
No, it really is. And it's, we have so many good young players in the game, I thought when Alex, and Sydney came into the league, I thought that was fantastic for the league. And you had the young Canadian, the young Russian player, and I thought they did so much to promote our game. But then I look now, there's so many good, young, talented players. It's exciting.
And from all over the world.
Yeah, from everywhere. And from, when I first started scouting, we had our Czechoslovakia, and Sweden, Finland, Russia. And now, we got good players coming from Norway and Denmark and Slovenia.
We just had a Hall of Famer from Slovenia, a future Hall of Famer, just retired.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Lots of travel for Ross, going to a lot of different countries, but no, it's really, really exciting. Our game's in a great place.
Favorite country to visit or scout?
Favorite country? Oh boy. Not really. I just enjoy all the different cultures,
Yeah.
And it's. I taught school for 17 years.
Yeah.
And boy, I would have been a better teacher if I had traveled, because a lot of things, whenever I get a day off or that, I try to go out and see something. And some of those things I was teaching in school, I was like, I read in books or I watched in a film. And, you're a good teacher, you're a good storyteller. And I've gone out and experienced them,
I didn't even mention that too. Like, you have a degree in education, and one of the part of your reputation is that you're an excellent communicator, right? Like, how much do you think in your capacity with the Capitals does your background in education help you on a consistent basis?
Yeah, you know what? I think in a lot of ways. When you're a teacher, you got to do kind of short-term planning and long-term planning.
Yeah.
You're working with kids. My last couple of years, I taught high school. You're working with that that age group. Having a classroom is like having a team.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're working with other staff members. You know, you're working with your amateur staff, and yeah, I think it's helped a lot. Yeah.
Best of luck at the draft.
Thank you very much.
Number 29.
Number 29. I think I had darker hair, number 1, a lot darker hair. But like I said before, just I've got a great staff. I really do. Like they disagree at times. They have great discussions, but at the end of the day, that's they know it's the Washington Capitals list, and they've worked hard, and we've done our homework, and we're going to go out there and we're going to make some good picks.
Wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
It's been fun.
I
Thanks,
appreciate
Ross.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ross Mahoney, one of the best to ever do it. And he's been at it, Karl, as you know, for a long time. As I mentioned off the top, 29th draft for Ross Mahoney. The things he's seen, the stories he could tell, the athletes he's plucked for the Washington Capitals over the years, the list is long and includes you. When you think about the Combine and you think about, scouting process and everything leading into the end of the month, last time we were together, you talked about, your draft story and where you thought you were going to go. And you told the great story about the joke. But what do you make of what it's become now? Like, it used to be just a couple of days. Like, I'll go back to the time when it was just a one-day event by the airport in Toronto, when guys would come in and do a couple of, like flies and incline bench and like get back on the plane and they were done. Maybe, one lat raise before you go, young man. But now it's a week-long event and the interviews can be a little bit silly sometimes. Like, what do you think of all of it, the entire process leading into what's now a week-long combine between exercises, measurements, and interviews?
Yeah, well, I think it just goes hand in hand with like the advanced stats, right? Like, there's so many people that are on teams of, the supporting staff that, whether they do body composition or some sort of mental testing, character traits, all that. There's just so much that you can try to gain from these things. When if it's me, of course I want to know, is there lingering issues like you had just mentioned offline, things like that. But I just want to see what type of person they are, right? Do they work their butt off? Do they go until fatigue, on their pull-ups? Do they get their 10th pull-up, they look good, and then they just drop? Versus, do they battle for that 11th? Those are the things that I want to see, that the kids that are willing to just really put that in. But then, that being said, you have players from so many different leagues where they train differently. Yeah. Like the college kids, they're always in better shape than the CHL guys because they have more opportunity to train. Their season is completely different than the CHL. The CHL guys. Like, I remember I couldn't even do a sit-up my first time. You do it to like a metronome, or you're supposed to do it. You can't just like throw yourself up there. And the guy said, go. And I couldn't even do a sit-up. And I fell back down on my back. And the guy just looked at me like, do you want to try again? And I'm like, yes, please. Can I try again? And so I had to like shake my head. And I think I got like 6 sit-ups, and did that matter in the long run? No, not at all. Sit-ups made no difference in my draft spot or my playing career. So there's so different ways to look at it right now. And, I'm sure some teams gain a lot, or at least they tell themselves they gain a lot. And it, changes their mind between pick 1 or pick 2, whatever they're going to do. But it's also fun for the kids to have to build up towards something, right? Like their first taste of what that level of expectation is when they get on the win gate and they have to go as hard as they possibly can, or they have to kill themselves in the VO2. Like, these players are going to grow and mature eventually. I'm more looking for those intangibles, right? If it was me, like what can that person push themselves to do? How can they carry themselves?
What advice, as someone who went through it already, obviously, and then went on to have a wonderful NHL career, what advice would you give these kids? Like, they can't help but being nervous because they're under scrutiny and they're being watched. I mean, everything from, their results at the combine to what the lining in their suit jacket on draft day is going to be. Like, these kids, like, they're under the microscope here. What advice would you give for them?
Well, it's weird. It's like you don't want to overthink it, but it's hard not to overthink it, right? You want to make sure you do so good because you're at that point in your career now where you think every little thing is a the end of the world. There's such a big difference, and that being said, yeah, I'm sure teams wouldn't love to hear this, but like it's a big difference between if you're a first round pick versus you're a 7th round pick or a 6th round pick. Like you sometimes get a little bit more leeway, right? Because there's a lot of people that have backed you to be a first round pick, so they want to know that their decision they made was good. So there's a lot happening there. But my advice would just be is to show the work ethic, right? Because that's not something that everybody has. We all know the story of the players who have all the skill in the world but just won't work for it. So showing that work ethic, and then and like Ross said, your maturity level. You may not have a very high maturity level, but you got to do your best to show what you do have, right? And some of these kids are pretty young and they're still figuring it out. But my advice is to have a conversation. Don't have an interview. I take that with me everywhere I go now. Is let's have a conversation. Let's not have this be an interview. You know what I mean? And I think it does go a long way for kids. I always did that with the media. Face them when you're talking to them. Don't just look straight forward. If the question came from the side of you, those little details I think go a long way. And then once it's done, it's done. I mean, there's no point of stressing over it after that. Same thing with a hockey game and a bad play. It's over. You're not going to go back and fix it. So just get out of your head. The head is the toughest thing. And your enemy. The kids that can do that show better. Yeah, absolutely.
What's the old saying? The brain is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. It's a great servant, but a terrible master. Listen, man, this has been great and really enlightening and a lot of fun too. I love that you have a story about just about everything, whether it's Mitch Marner or a lost tooth or a draft story. It's always a delight being with you, and I love your angle on choosing conversation over everything. That makes a ton of sense, considering that's been my career for my entire life. So I'm with you. Choose conversation with Karl Alzner, the new self-help book on bookshelves soon. Find it everywhere. Karl, thanks so much for doing this. Much appreciated.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks.
And a big thank you this week as well to producer Sean Salehi on site in Buffalo, and also camera operator Greg Abernathy for the Ross Mahoney interview. That's it for me this week on The Hockey Lifers. We are back in 7 days. Conduct yourselves accordingly. We'll talk to you next week.